Alrighty, everyone. All right. Can you hear me okay? All right. Welcome, everyone. This is the plenary session, like Jill described. This is just kind of the update on everything going on with the data team here at NDE. Couple notes here. We are hosting this through Event Combo. That's where the agenda and stuff is. There's a really long URL to get there. So the thing to remember, as always, is nedataconference.com. That's where we'll have the link to the sessions. We'll also use that website for posting videos, slides, as well as any times that we host webinars. That's where they go. So we will work on getting the recordings of the sessions in here posted on there as well, probably next week. All right, first topic. We're talking about what's going on with Advisor, the main data collection for the rest of this year. Just a reminder, the Advisor calendar is available on the Advisor Resources website. That has all the due dates for up until the end of this school year at June. We will be posting a new calendar as well to cover next school year, so we will be doing that in the near future. Most student data is due June 15th, like always. Special education programs, especially all exit reasons for students who are exiting or graduating before July 1st. Calendars and absences, the data we use for calculating absenteeism, attendance rates, chronic absenteeism, that we lock in and use for NEP and AQuest in the fall. That comes from this data due in June. Discipline data, that new data that is now part of the NEP for public reporting, that is all collected at this June due date. Really, pretty much all the other programs, early childhood, homeless, English learners, for English learners in the current school year. That's all collected now. And our course and section records, I know there's a lot of data all due at the same time. Obviously, you can be reviewing all of this data now. Course and section data, most of you probably already have all your sections reported for the rest of the year, I'm guessing. So that would include all the instructional minutes that are reported as part of the course offering record that is set up when you first set up the course. So you can go out right now and look at your reports on instructional units, teachers' endorsed percentage, as well as all your CTE, concentrator data, your Perkins data, your programs of study. All that is available in Advisor now. This is, I also should mention, this is the final data collection we're doing for 23-24 data. There's always these few things that lag a whole year. That's data that you still report to us in the 23-24 data publishing piece of your student information system. And if you want to review the data, you flip back to 23-24 when you're in advisor validation. That includes student home addresses that we use for the special education post-school outcome survey. We hope to have that right around April 1st each year, so if you aren't sure if your data is all submitted for that, please look into that soon. And then at the end of June is when we will lock in the Perkins postgraduate activities. So that's your Perkins concentrators who graduated a year ago. What have they been doing this year? And that's one of the data pieces we collect for our Perkins accountability reporting. We pretty much have a set schedule for how everything works each year. So generally, this will be the final 23-24 data collected, and then we will shut off the system for collecting any of that school year's data right around August 1st. So. Next, after that is the follow-up collection that we always have every year. We did have a lot of changes to the structure of this collection last year. I think this year we are keeping everything the same as it was last summer. So that we took more things out of the follow-up collection last year to try to simplify it. Essentially, we are just looking for graduation, dropout, transfer out records, especially for those 9th through 12th graders in your cohort data. Everything to get your grad cohort and dropout rate finalized before it goes into the NEP this fall. And last year, we also had a special process for any changes related to special education students who graduated between July 1st and the first day of school. Essentially, you would just submit a late request to us, and NDE will work with you to handle those. Essentially, we have, it's a kind of complex process, I know. But we want to make sure to get you your credit for your students who've graduated. Anyone who graduates before the first day of school per statute can still be counted in your grad rate from the prior year. However, when it comes to the world of special ed reporting, things are different. It's really about what kids have exited on June 30th, and kids who exit after that are counted in the next year. So there will be changes in the future to make this easier as well that we will cover later on in the slides. One big new thing this year, per the new statutes related to graduation requirements and FAFSA, filling that form out. There is a new field in advisor this year that's already been added, but you may not have really looked at it yet. This is the field where you confirm for us that students have either completed the FAFSA or they have been waived. And we expect to see that, since it is a graduation requirement, any student marked as graduating with a 210 completer with a diploma exit code are the students that we are expecting you to either know that they filled out the FAFSA or to give them a waiver. Just a reminder, like always, districts must review their active errors in advisor validation. We really want you to review them by June 15th. That is the due date. What happens after June 15th is that people around the department will start looking at your data, and if things aren't done yet, we will be contacting you. There have been several new errors and warnings added throughout the year. We always mention that in the bulletin when those get turned on. We just had a couple of new ones about a month ago. So obviously, if those new errors are getting pulled up for your district, when you go and review your open errors, you'll see them. If you're curious to see every possible error, though, and what the description of those new ones are, there's a link called Error Summary in Advisor Validation, and you can hit that as well. The service desk has also been putting together documentation to expand on every error and go deeper into a description of it and how to fix it. That is part of our help site. We have the URL there. Obviously, you could always talk to the service desk. I think we have this URL probably posted on the portal too. There's in a few places anyways, so I would definitely recommend you make use of those. The final thing that happens, usually this will probably happen like June 27th or somewhere around that time frame. We will turn on the link for district administrators to indicate that they have reviewed all their reports. So to get ready for that, we would recommend everyone here should be reviewing all of the relevant year-end reports. The service desk puts out a document, like an Excel document, that lists all these reports, as well as when you're in advisor validation, there's that column on the right where we'll try to be consistent. Generally, every one of them will say year-end if it's something you should be looking at in June. And yet, there's a link to that checklist document also through the help website. I did want to mention a few new reports that we've added over the last couple of months. There is a new chronic absenteeism report that this is data that was available before, but we have separated it out from the student attendance summary report. So the student attendance summary report is primarily used for audits, for looking at the total number of absences, total number of days enrolled, and you can see how much every student contributes to the ADA and ADM. And that report, ADA and ADM is affected by FTE. When it comes to chronic absenteeism, though, and this is the data we've been using for a few years, a student really just counts as one student. As long as they've been enrolled 10 days, they are eligible to be counted as in chronic absenteeism. It doesn't matter what their FTE is, as long as we see that enrollment record. So this new report separates that data out and will give you, should give you the exact chronic absenteeism rate you will see in AQuest and the NEP come this fall. I also wanted to point out this new recently arrived English learners report. This is a grouping of students that's used in our statewide assessment reporting, like on the NEP, and it also does affect whether these scores count for certain AQuest metrics or not. It is based on a combination of two data fields that we have in Advisor. Recently arrived means we're looking at the immigrant indicator field, and then English learner means we're looking at English learner program data. So we pulled that out into a separate report just to be extra clear about who exactly we are seeing in that group and who we're counting for your district. And again, just a reminder, we say this all the time, even if you clear off all your active errors, it isn't a guarantee that your data is 100% correct. Obviously, we can only really run validation errors on the data that we see, and if there's students that we don't know about, then we may not be seeing errors about those. So please always try to review all of those year-end reports. District administrators, superintendents are the folks who have access to this sign-off screen where you are vouching that you have read all the reports. Yes, actually, June 26th this year, I think I looked at the calendar, will probably be the day that we activate that sign-off. And then the data is locked at midnight on June 30th. At that point, the year-end locked version of reports show up in advisor validation, and that locked data will only change, some of it will change due to the follow-up collection, but otherwise all that data only changes through tickets or late requests with NDE. One more other kind of year-end thing, 24-25, not a CRDC year. It's confusing because these things lag so much, they kind of overlap. The 23-24 CRDC collection is what was just due. I believe on Monday was supposed to be the final due date. I do know the Office of Civil Rights had sent some letters to districts if you hadn't filled that out and fully marked it as certified and complete. So you can expect they will probably be following up with any districts who still need to do it. But keep in mind, 25-26, as far as we know, is going to be a CRDC collection year, so that means 2 years from now probably will be when that data is coming due. So, a couple of the other things going on: staff reporting. That's the same system that everyone has to fill out in the fall. The final version of the data will be locked in at the end of the year, so please, everyone, review all your staff reporting data, get everything set with everyone who has been employed throughout the year by June 15th, and we will look at it during that audit window. Staff reporting includes all the certificated staff, and it also includes substitutes. We need to see a number of days worked marked for anyone who's a substitute in your district for us to give them credit. And essentially, this is the data we look at when any of your staff or these substitutes are renewing their certificates. So please do keep that up to date. Also very important, special education staff, making sure that the SPI codes, position codes are set correctly so that they are eligible to be looked at, well, first eligible to be looked at in our report of IDEA qualified staff, and then eligible to be counted, to be pulled into the SPED-FRS financial reporting system. So, NSSRS validation is still the app to go to review staff errors and staff reports, at least for now. A couple of the other year-end collections that Naomi wanted to cover. In the CDC, we have the days in session, instructional program hours. We are still collecting the program hours there specifically. Annual participation report, the district and school info report, where we are setting up the buildings for next year, and also especially if you think you need changes for how your buildings need to be laid out for AQuest a year from now, in the 25-26 school year, this is where to let us know. Also, under the data collections tab in the portal, there's some standalone collections there. Information related to learning disabilities, including dyslexia. Nebraska Education Profile information, which has like the description of your schools and some other things that get used in the NEP. Pupil transportation report, non-certificated staff. This is something that most districts have already filled out in the fall, but we will be following up on anyone who hasn't filled that out because that is something we collect for federal data submission. A couple other notes, just because this is also the time of the year when people start looking at the Person ID app for any new students who are coming next year. Person ID has been updated, I believe, back in January or maybe February. It included lots of new fixes, some new validation errors for file uploads. So hopefully we are aiming to give you feedback anytime a file upload gets rejected. There's also an updated guidance document. The service desk worked on that to really expand that document and provide more explanations. We also have a big list of all the possible file upload validation errors in that document. That's available on our Advisor Resources site. There's a tab for Advisor Person ID. Also, another big change, file uploads and downloads now include preferred middle name. So we have 3 preferred name fields. They are all optional. If you submit a file with only preferred and first and last name, that's fine. If you submit a file with all 3 columns missing, that's also fine. We definitely encourage everyone to use it though. One key thing is when that student data gets copied into Advisor. So when you're looking at any reports in Advisor, you're looking in the student lookup, the name you see there will be based on the preferred name if it was filled in, or otherwise just the legal name. So that will now include the preferred middle name. We also made some fixes for student matching logic in file uploads, especially very large file uploads. So hopefully those of you who submit those big files are getting less of those near matches now. There's still more improvements that could be done in that, but it is a complex issue. So this is why I brought it up here, though. June 1st is generally always when we roll Person ID to the new year for anyone who's interested in getting their students set up for the new year. Obviously, we don't want any enrollment data to be sent up for those students in 24-25, but you can get your Person ID system set up. Another good reason is, once again, this was something we introduced last summer. We will be using Person ID for matching against DHHS, SNAP, TANF, and Medicaid data in the overnight direct certification system. Generally, the way that works, on July 1st, we roll over to the new fiscal year with direct certification, start from scratch with the latest HHS data. Then from July 2nd through September 15th, that's when we are looking at Person ID data to check to match with HHS data by name and birth date. And so kind of that's filling in as enrollment data, since we know you can't have Advisor enrollment data for 25-26 ready at that time. So that we will look at Person ID data that's been uploaded with the new 25-26 school year that was just turned on. So this is a good reminder to take all of your students that are returning for the new year. You could upload them all in a file into Person ID, and Person ID will catch any of the name updates that happen, as well as their current enrollment and grade level for the new school year. Once you upload that file, then our direct cert system will see it. Then after September 15th, it'll return to normal. We are then pulling enrollment data from Advisor up through the rest of the year at that point. One more related thing that is going on literally this week. The summer EBT benefits program is starting up again. There's been a communication sent out by our nutrition services team, largely to all of the different food contacts that are set up in our direct certification system. Generally, every district should have those contacts in place, I think. Every district that does the school lunch program. They've been hosting some webinars, I think today and yesterday, that they're recording. We're going to take those and turn that into frequently asked questions, as well as slides and stuff will all be posted on the Nutrition Services website. You can just go to NDE's main website and search for them, or, I just remember to go to the /NS website there. Generally, almost everything is the same as last summer. Hopefully, we're stabilizing the system a little bit. There is one big change, though. Districts, if you have any community eligibility provision schools, the rules have changed this year for which students qualify there. I believe last year, every student in those schools automatically qualified, but now we are looking for certain students in there. I don't want to cover all the details here. It does get pretty complicated. And also Katie Parch from our nutrition services team is hosting a session about this tomorrow. So I will just refer you to them if you are interested in any of those details. Just to give you an idea of the timeline for this. So literally right this week, we are working with HHS. We're going to send out the first round of benefits, which is based purely on this automated direct certification data from HHS, as well as any families that have already submitted SEBT applications directly to NDE. Since that's been open for a while, we are running the data for them. You guys don't have to be involved in that at this time. The next issuance, though, we do want to get as many of you as possible to submit your data and get included there. So we will be reopening our SEBT file upload collection in the portal. It's scheduled to be open by Monday. Likely we'll get it open, in the next couple of days. The first due date is coming a week after that. I know, very quick. April 21st, we will take any of the files that have been uploaded that have good data and include those in that first issuance, or what I should say, the second overall issuance. But the first one that you guys are able to participate in. If you can't make that due date, though, please do upload the file. We will be taking any new files we see, as well as if anything changes, new students come in, someone's status changes, and they now qualify, anytime up through the rest of the summer. You can always submit a file in the app, and we will pick it up for the next issuance we do. We're actually aiming for about every 3 weeks to submit new files. And also, if anyone is using their SIS to generate that file that goes in, the format is the same as last year, so it shouldn't be a big problem. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Naomi to talk a little bit about the new portal, especially for those who weren't here at the session earlier.
Okay, if you were here already this morning, that's really loud. You've already seen some of these slides, but I'm just going to repeat them for people who weren't. The new portal, this is what the homepage is going to look like. And you're going to use I don't have a pointer here, but the big blue button, I like to say. You're going to click there. We've got 2 laptops showing different things. Okay, so we have modernized the portal, and I'll get into timing here in a little bit, but when I talk about the new portal, I'm talking about the things that we have done to make improvements to the portal. The existing portal still exists. You're still going to do your year-end data through it. Life continues in what we call legacy portal. This is all to do with the new portal, which we'll slowly be coming out with. So some of the improvements we've made are single sign-on credentials. So I say the big blue button. That's for people who use single sign-on. It's meant to make logging in easier, which means that you'll auto-assign your district to your account, which is really helpful. No more activation codes, which we all cheer for. The ability to request access and also have your superintendents assign access to you. What's been I think going to be really helpful, especially for superintendents, is the ability to assign a proxy admin. This is someone who can do the work of the superintendent if they're not there. Even if they are there, both people can approve and assign access within the new portal. And then when you get into the new portal, you'll see we have an improved design. The homepage looks much nicer. The graphics are more beautiful. There's announcements, contacts there. And then the access does look a little bit different because we got rid of activation codes. You can either have access to a role, which is specific to your job responsibilities, or you'll have access to a single application. So if all your job is submitting the teacher vacancy survey, then that's the one application that you'll get access to. If your job is a data steward, you're going to get a series of applications because your role will be data steward, and it includes multiple applications. So let's talk about the rollout plan. We launched the new portal this morning with all of you in here, which went lovely, I think. But we only gave you one application. It's a brand new one. Max is going to talk about it here in a little bit. It's called District Contact Information. As I mentioned, everything else is still in legacy portal. So year-end data, don't fret, it's still gonna be the way it's always been. We'll slowly add new applications into the new portal, and we will inform you when those transitions occur. So we also have this document, the which portal do I use, which we'll be updating as things change. All right, so the plan, we launched the new portal this morning. We've got a lot of entities to introduce this to. We still have to inform superintendents that they have accounts in the new portal. We've got to reach out to non-public schools, ESUs, special purpose schools, and introduce all of them as well to the new portal. So lots more training documents to be developed and shared. All of the feedback we got this morning at our pre-conference session has been really helpful. We'll put together FAQs for all that. And then our developers will be rewriting all of our legacy portal collections as we rewrite this portal. So Max had a slide earlier and it had CDC things, and it only lists like 3 collections, and then it had other collections that used to be in the CDC, but we're rewriting those as standalone collections in the old portal so that they will easily transition into the new portal when that's ready for them. So you'll see it's kind of that transition start to happen with a lot of things. I guess I kind of talked a little bit about this. Do you want to touch on this? Yeah, okay. So this is kind of Satya and Max's world too. So we're refreshing all of the data collection apps that are in the portal. This is definitely not my area of expertise because I know the front side, the user side, but not the back side with all the development. And it's very interesting to learn how all the old collections were developed, and they're having to pretty much rewrite every single one in a little bit of way. Even like advisor validation, which is a fairly new collection, is going to need to be tweaked a little bit in order to get set up in the new portal. So I talked a little bit about the CDC, how you're going to start to see things come out of the CDC, but still be in legacy portal, and then eventually we'll move them into the new portal. Anything else? Oh, here's a nice little screenshot. So some of these apps that have already been opened within the current portal, you've probably noticed that you had to get a new activation code in Legacy Portal. So non-certificated staff, non-public federal programs within boundaries, consultation, school bonds. We've taken some of these CDC ones out of the CDC, kept them in the old portal, but rewrote them. And you can see even the graphics between the CDC, which is kind of old-timey technology, and the new graphics of the new applications. You'll notice the difference just visually when you're opening those collections. Even though you are in the legacy portal still, they'll look and feel different. Oh, okay, Max, you're up. I have 2 sessions on the new portal, so come see me. If you had trouble this morning, come see me. Service desk is here. We're still working through all our bugs and stuff, so just come see the service desk and we'll get you registered.
So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about this new app that we've been working on for a while, and we chose as the first app to come out in the new portal. It's not fully ready, but we are 99% of the way there. Just like the new portal, it's still kind of in a testing phase. But if you do have someone give you the approved access in the new portal, I do believe you can open it and get into it. So the purpose of this app is just to consolidate a lot of things from around the department where we are collecting contact information usually from districts and schools. I think there's a lot of various manual processes, PDF forms. We even have an old app as well in collection in the old portal. So our hope is for this to just be a one-stop shop for any of that information you need to provide to us. One key reason why it's a good app for working in the new portal, it doesn't generally have hard collection due dates. This app is just meant to be open all the time, and you can tell us anytime those contacts change at your district. You can get in the app and let us know. Key thing is will then also be available over the summer. It's not something that we have to wait and open September 1st, like staff reporting, for example. So especially when your superintendents and principals are transitioning over the summer, that is happening with any of you, this is a great place to let us know and give us that contact information. We've really haven't had a good way to do that during that summer transition time, so we're hoping this will help make sure NDE's on board with what's going on with your districts over the summer. It doesn't replace the fall staff reporting again. That is statutorily required, and we collect a lot more data about your staff in that system. So fall staff reporting will keep going on. Like I mentioned, yeah, the old portal collection, safety and curriculum contacts, that is one we are replacing though. One of the features in this new app will be that some types of contacts can be required to have a district administrator approve them. This is kind of meant to replace a function where contacts maybe used to be, collected through a PDF form where the superintendent had to sign on that form. So we can have, with this always open contact app, we do have ways to make sure everyone reviews certain data as of a certain date. Most likely this would come up with our assessment contacts, so district assessment coordinators, and NSCAS technical coordinators, ACT technical coordinators. These all used to be PDF forms, I believe, that our assessment office would send out to every district and had to make sure everyone filled out the form and gave it back to her. So in the new system, likely what we would do, I don't know exactly when this will happen, might be like June 1st. We'll take all the data that's already in the system and has been approved and unapprove it basically, so that when we can track and make sure that every district that's come in and their superintendent has checked off that the contact is correct or has made changes. Also, yeah, some of the different contact types will vary and can be collected at different levels. These are all settings that NDE will set up for each type of contact. Superintendents are collected at districts, principals are collected at schools, ESU, chief administrators are collected at an ESU. So this app can work with all of them. So these are the contact types we're going to have in the system soon. I wanted to have this today, but literally ran out of time. Maybe even by tomorrow. We're going to preload the new app with all of the current superintendents, principals, chief administrators, the current DACs, NTACs, TCs, all the assessment contacts. We're going to preload it with the curriculum and the safety contacts from the old system. We've been shopping around the department to see if other offices had types to add to this list, and we've got a pretty good list going. So I'm not sure exactly when we will premiere these, but pretty, in the near future, I'll just say. Some of those that we're going to look to add, social media monitor, behavioral health contact, I believe, are both current things that are collected by the safety office of this. Continuous improvement contact, I believe that is who's the contact for any schools working with designations through AQuest. Perkins contact, I believe every district has one of those already that our CTE office works with. Intervention project manager, actually I believe the intervention in this case is referring to accountability and designations as opposed to student interventions. A Rule 18 educational liaison, if your district has that. Student data steward, those of you in here, we've kind of always had an informal, Google Doc, Google Sheet where we collect this data, and we'll be able to convert it into the app now. liaison for homeless programs, special education director. I believe the SPED office has their own collection for this and will be able to integrate it. Systems involved youth liaison, business managers, early childhood coordinators, and gold online administrators for the early childhood assessment. So anyway, that app will be ramping up over the summer, and we hope to really be using it by the end of the summer. So I may have spoken a little fast. I believe we have a break scheduled until 2:15. But first, any questions or slides that you want me to go back and cover? All right. Well, I hope that means I'm communicating well here then. All right, there will be snacks available for the break soon. I don't know if they're in there yet. And we've got time until 2:15 where we will pick this back up and talk about more of the changes coming in the future. All right, everyone. We'll get going again here shortly. All right. First, yeah, the report of snacks may have been overstated, but they're getting some out now. So after this session, there will be some in there. I see some of you are sneaking some already, maybe. So we will have another break after this one. I did get a couple of questions I wanted to answer also. Back when we were talking about FAFSA, that requirement, does that apply to the 2025 cohort or 2025 graduates? And unless our legal office disagrees with me, from what I could see in the statute, it says that beginning in school year 24-25, each public high school student prior to graduating must complete a FAFSA. So we are interpreting that as anyone who graduates in the 24-25 school year. So that's what our error is running on. If we're looking for anyone in the 24-25 school year with a 210 graduation completed with a diploma code. Also, a question about the new portal. How does the single sign-on work? I know a little bit about that. We are partnering with ESUCC, who has actually set up a single sign-on system several years ago. They've worked with all the ESUs to get all of the backbones for districts tied in. Generally, it's either Microsoft Active Directory, Azure, or Google, whatever your district uses. They've done the work to tie those in to their single sign-on system, also called the Nebraska Cloud. Some of you may use that if there's some ESUCC apps that are hosted in their Nebraska Cloud portal, although not every district is necessarily using those. So we are using all the work that Scott and the ESU teams have set up for us. So there may be some districts that we're having some struggles with. We were catching a lot of those in the pre-conference session today, but soon, yes, the intent is that for public districts, whatever system you have tied in with your local district network systems is what we'll use in the new portal. So, all right. Next up, I would like to invite Jill back up, and we'll talk a little bit about SLDS.
Thank you, Max. I managed to do something really amazing for today. I got one slide for the entire day. So this is it. I'm going to make Max and Naomi do the rest of it. Mostly this is just advertisement for lunch tomorrow. So just if you guys aren't aware, there was a bill passed this past legislative session, LB 296. It has to do with systems-involved youth or students involved in the juvenile justice system. It is going to make some changes at NDE. It has to do with us hiring registrars and offering state diplomas and all this other stuff. It also ties in with the work we're doing under our SLDS grant, Statewide Longitudinal Data System grant. We got that grant in 2023, which is why it's called the 2023 SLDS grant. And we are now in our second year of it. And it actually was focused on improving our data system to help at-risk youth. And we, in our grant, identified at-risk youth. We tried not to identify it narrowly, but one group that we definitely called out in that was systems-involved youth. And that includes students who are involved, for example, in Rule 18s. So those two really tie well together, although they're like a Venn diagram. You get some kids that are in one group, some kids in the other group, some kids that are in both. And so those two really do tie pretty well together. And so we're going to, Kristen and I, we're going to be talking on tomorrow at lunch. We'll give you a little time to eat, and then while you're finishing up your eating, we'll tell you a little bit more about how that happened, how we got to where we are, and kind of the things that you'll be seeing come out of NDE per that legislation over the next year. So that's one of the things related to the SLDS grant that you're going to hear about here at the data conference. I also wanted to give a little bit of a plug for one other thing that has come out of the SLDS grant so far. That is our new district data visualization group. We actually announced that group last year at this conference, asked for people to volunteer for it. We got a great group of people to volunteer. We have met a number of times. We are on the verge of producing our first data visualization for the district, just waiting for it to be basically approved by our program office before we publish it. And on that same note, there is going to be a session to talk about some of that work tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. in Diamond 7. So if you are wanting to hear more about that, you can attend that session. So that's pretty much all I'm going to do, kind of basically put plugs in for some sessions. But we are still doing the SLDS work. You'll hear more about it during the lunchtime session tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to talk about some more of the new things coming especially the 25-26 school year and beyond. I want to talk about FAFSA again. Again, this is coming from the same statute I referred to earlier. Part of the statute, and it makes a very clear distinction that when we collect student level data, we don't get to find out who filled out the form and who was waived, probably especially due to, making sure that we only have access to the data we need. But the statute also does say that we must collect in aggregate how many students were waived, and aggregate how many students filled out the FAFSA for every high school. So that means another new collection will be created for that. It would be most likely during the summer at the earliest, where we will, basically we just need to collect those two numbers from everyone and if you're a bigger district, 2 numbers for each high school. Now the fun part here, starting advisor 25-26 changes. Just to give you an idea of where we are in the release schedule, this is kind of the back end of this is everything that happens every year for advisor. We start in March, really. I mean, we start earlier. But in March is when we try to finalize the ideas for what changes we need in the new school year. There always could be late changes, but we are getting better and better at planning and doing these all ahead of time. In April, we have members from Edwise actually working right now to build the internal software with all of the new changes that we've planned out for the new school year. In early May, we generally set up this development sandbox. That's something that the vendors can log into and actually practice sending data in the new school year format without affecting any actual student data. That's also about when we release the rest, big batch of documentation for vendors at that time. I've released some, but that's when we should finish everything. So at that time, that's when vendors have everything they need to begin their work. That's also, I should mention, approximately when we should put out the new advisor calendar guidance document that we post on the advisor resources. Vendors do their development work to support of these new changes, and it can be a lot of work. Generally in July, August is when vendors start doing some of their final tests with us. We actually give them a list of things we want to test, and I work with them and check off that everything's working as expected, and which I think is valuable. We do often find 1 or 2 little things that need to get fixed, and so we can take care of that before any of you from the district see it. Generally, then we open up the advisor URL August 1st. That's when the software is available for SISs to begin connecting to send data to it. Obviously, the SIS vendor has to also have their software ready and pushed out to everyone to work with the new school year at that time. So that's why it's not just a switch turned on August 1st for everybody. That's also then we will work on releasing that data elements guidance document on advisor resources. That is the one targeted for everyone here, and that'll have the appendix in it that tells you everything that changed from last year. Also then that's when we begin rolling over the advisor validation website. It's, the advisor validation website's always up, but we add the new year and then make sure all the errors and reports are running in the new school year, because the changes we mention here always means there's work for us to do as well. Reports and errors all change to support everything that's happening. So generally then the vendors finish their certification in August into early September. Generally, hopefully by Labor Day, everyone has been certified to be sending data for the new school year. So some of the changes that are being included this year, I won't get into too many of the technical details here, but I just did want to mention we are upgrading to the latest EdFi data standard and the latest EdFi API. These are confusing terms, I know, but the data standard is really just a structure of how the data looks like, how everything is linked together. The data standard isn't really software per se. It's the data standard is what says there is a thing called a course offering, and there is a thing called a section, and there is a thing called a student section association. And then at the same time, we upgrade the API. That's the website, that's that URL that most everyone has to type in to work with the new school year in your SIS. So EdFi is generally coming out with a slightly tweaked version of the data standard in their software every year. But we've kind of worked out between EdFi, the vendors, and states. Not everyone really wants to constantly be updating every single year. So everyone's agreed that updating every other year is fine, and that's what we've been doing more or less since the beginning. I think the vendors appreciate it too, so they don't have to do as much work every single year. And EdFi agrees to keep maintaining the old version while they keep working on their new versions. So I mentioned this basically because there are a few changes that the vendors have to do internally to work with the new software that you don't necessarily see. But for example, one thing I wanted to point out is that we have actually helped contribute to like one of the changes we're seeing this year. We had helped, and we didn't do this fully on our own. We worked with EdFi, they helped us. We created this custom definition called an extension in the EdFi world for crisis events. This was after that spring flooding, is that 3 or 4 years ago? I forget which. It's meant to be something that helps us track, you know, in the short term. If a big event has gone on, we could track what students are being affected by it, especially if they're being displaced from their homes. So we created that as custom code originally, and this is a year where now that code is part of EdFi for every state, every NND that uses it has this crisis event included. So that means more work for us though. Since we were the early leaders in creating it, this year we need to change all our code to point to the regular spot instead of the custom Nebraska spot. Some of the other changes we have coming up. I kind of reviewed all the data elements. I've picked out some that I didn't think were really being used much, and I did get some agreement that we get to remove these. They're not really deleted completely, it's just we are considering these as optional. Vendors, districts don't have to worry about sending this. So, first, student and staff groupings. It was always an optional feature. Most of you probably don't even realize that this was an option. It's called cohorts, but it's confusing. It's not a graduation cohort. It's just any cohort. It's just a group of students and a staff. You could tie them together just for any reporting purposes. So we are getting rid of that. Vendors don't have to support it. There were some fields we originally added for CRDC reporting that we didn't actually end up using. Like if you go out to the CRDC reports in advisor validation, we had meant to collect like Title IX contacts, and then we didn't actually generate the reports to use that, so we're getting rid of it. Learning modalities was something we kind of implemented under COVID, made a lot of sense then. I don't think we're really using that data for anything now. That's learning modality is where you could tell us our students are in class 3 days and learn from home 2 days. There may be small amounts of that still happening, but I assume most schools are probably not doing anything from home anymore. So we are just going to get rid of that. Section level attendance is something that you guys must do. You need to know who's showing up at each of their class sections. This is just something that it was always a huge technological burden to so many records are generated, millions and millions of records every year get generated for section attendance. And it's not something we use for the state's attendance reporting, ADA, ADM, any of that stuff. So a lot of people just shut it off anyways, so now we're just gonna say, hey, we don't need it. Let's forget about it and stop, you know, trying to melt our servers when people send this data in. Staff data for anyone other than classroom teachers. So we are always collecting classroom teachers. We need to see in the section who is the primary teacher, and that's who we check endorsements against the course to make sure everyone's meeting their requirements. But initially we had thought we'd also tell you, hey, report your superintendent, your principal, your data stewards, your anybody, and we can use that data for other things like a data dashboard. In practice, I think we found that it was very difficult for you guys to report this data. This wasn't always, your SIS is not your main place where you're keeping track of all your staff. And we found it wasn't a very reliable data source to actually use to control access to something, you know. So like in the new portal, you know, to get access to something, you have to ask your district administrator. We're not gonna go just look at some advisor data and assume somebody gets access. So basically, if anyone is still worried about sending this data, you really just need to send your classroom teachers. Parent data, this is something that may save you some time as well. We have found, and I'm sure you guys already knew this, but parent data could get very complicated as all the different types of relations with students, family members, multiple parents, etc. It can get very complicated. A lot of you are still collecting that data. You need to know all of that about your students. But if we just want like a student's home address, and we started using this a few years ago, we're just gonna get it from the student record. When you submit that student demographics record, there's a place where you can set the student's main home address. And you have to send us demographics records anyways, so we just said, hey, let's get rid of the parent data. We're not using it for anything else. Each vendor will kind of handle these how they see fit, and you know, I'll help them work through any issues there. All right, moving into some of the new stuff being added. There's a couple of changes we have coming. 2 data elements are being changed to help simplify special ed reporting. There's some codes going away, some codes being added. In the end, I think it'll be simpler. So first, we have this placement type data element, which the SPED office has told us that's a very confusing name because, as you can see from the old codes, these are all codes that go away. This was just about non-public or exempt students, basically whether they're on an IEP or an ESP. And it was kind of confusing to collect this and then also collect another code about it. So we're getting rid of this code entirely. Then the other code we are updating is the special education setting. This is one, we've made changes to it in the past as well. And you could see we already, in the old system, we already had up to code number 22. So now we go all the way up to number 26. We are getting rid of the old code 14, which just said private school or exempt homeschool. And we're splitting that out to be more specific, but we're all collecting it in a single element now. And we've done this with public students as well, where we have 3 different codes. And so the same here, 23, 24, 25. Those are just your non-public or your exempt school students. And you're telling us, are they in the regular class 80% or more, 40 to 79% of the day, or less than 40%. And then the 4th option is just non-public students that are on an equitable services plan. This data will fit in with the federal special ed reporting a lot easier, and I think it's simpler for everyone. So it may, depending on how vendors choose to implement it, it may be one less drop down you have to fill in. That will really be up to the vendors though. Here's a graphic, and this is one I got from the special ed office. They will be sharing this in multiple communications, I'm sure. This is really the summary of everything happening with that setting code, though. So. Right, a few more changes, small ones here. The language codes, you know, there's a big list of like 500 different languages you can send us to where we are finding the dominant language for English learner students. We're going to tweak that up a little bit just to match with the federal reporting requirements. They have a few codes they want to remove. I don't have it all spelled out here. When it comes time to the data elements document, we'll spell out exactly every individual code that changes. I don't expect this will be a big problem for most everyone. Also, behavior code. We're adding one more behavior code. These are the behavior codes that are really there just for CRDC purposes. Harassment or bullying based on gender identity. That is a new element that CRDC is requiring us to report, or requiring you to report, I should say. So we want to include it here so that we can then put this into our CRDC output reports come when 25-26 reporting is done. And yeah, like I mentioned, 25-26 is scheduled to be a CRDC year, so roughly, yeah, the winter of 26-27 is probably when they'll go about collecting that data. I want to talk about statewide assessment a little bit. Working with the assessment office, we've wanted to offer districts the chance to give us alternative assessments. They can report to us for NAI. NAI is something that comes from state statute. It basically just says that districts must report a nationally recognized assessment to NDE other than their statewide assessment, and that we will report it out yearly on the NEP. Past couple years, we've just been automatically doing map growth for everyone. I believe as we have a new contract with NWEA for statewide assessments, map growth, there is also a statewide contract for. However, if any district wishes to opt out and use a different assessment and have that count as the data that would get reported out on the NEP, we are going to let you choose to do that, and there'll be some optional work we have to do to be able to collect that data via the SIS. First, I want to mention, so in the Nebraska Education Profile Information Collection, that's the collection where we collect like the paragraph that describes your district, and we put that on the NEP. This is also the collection where you tell us for NAI what grade levels do you want to count. You have a few different, we need one grade level at an elementary and a middle, and you can tell us specifically which one to use for each building. So this is where we will add this, where we'll make it official if you want to tell us to use something other than map growth for your NAI. However, this is something that happens after, or basically right at the end of the 25-26 school year. So the NEP information collection that's opening this spring, that will just be the same as normal. That's for the NEP that comes out this fall, and that's all based on 24-25 data. But if any district is interested in this, you must inform your SIS vendor that you want them to support being able to send this data. And yeah, sooner would be better than later. I assume if you were interested in doing this, this is something you probably have to have set up at the beginning of the 25-26 school year, as I assume you might be testing throughout the year. So essentially, we would work with your SIS vendor and also the data that's available to us from the assessment vendor to kind of design the technical specs for submitting this data. It's data that districts would have to enter into their SIS. I think some of you may already do that. There may be screens in your SIS for, you know, entering assessment results for a student that you're probably getting in an Excel file or something. So that's why we're going through the route of the SIS to offer this. However, if you are just wanting to use map growth, NWEA actually sends that data to Advisor directly. So it's already there. You guys don't have to do anything. And we are hoping to get other vendors involved in that in the future as well. I wanted to kind of describe this data though, just because we have been collecting this data directly from NWEA for several years. And I know in the data dashboard that ESU 6 and 17 are working on, they've got a session about that tomorrow, they are actually starting to pull down this data. And SIS vendors may be interested in doing that as well. So I just kind of wanted to describe how this data is laid out, just to give you an idea. So first, it starts at the top with the assessment data element. That's the top level definition of an assessment. NDE would probably help set this up because it's, you know, there's not very many of these records. It could be as simple as vendor X's 2025 assessment, or it can be as complex as this is a real one we have coming in. I think that is map growth. Fall 2025, science grades 6 through 8. Nebraska 2017 version 1.1 screen reader compatible. So, you know, NWEA has a bunch of these that they generate automatically and send to us. The next element below that is student assessment. Generally, this is one record that ties a student to the assessment they took. It's tied to that thing I just talked about, like the fall 2025 science, whatever. And that student assessment element says this student took this assessment at this location on this date, and they were this grade level. So far, that's all pretty standard and simple. The next level down, though, is where it starts to get interesting. This is where we can customize things to be able to support any assessment vendor. This is, you know, something that EdFi has built, that they had this in mind when they built it. So this is called a student assessment score result, which is kind of a confusing name maybe. But it's meant to be something that you can report almost anything to us about that student's assessment. A lot of you, I know when we get data from assessment vendors, and I think you may get something similar, like if you log into NWEA's website and download a results file, you might get an Excel file that has 50 columns. Each of those columns can be one of these things that gets defined here. So there's a reporting method, which is just a field, custom field that can say what it is we're collecting, a data type that says what is the data look like, and the score, which is really just, you know, the actual data being collected. So here's an example for a single student with a single vendor X assessment. They have a raw score, it's an integer, it's 78. They have a percentile, it's a decimal, it's 91.5. I don't think those are usually decimals actually, but you know, for my example. They have a performance level, it's text, it's really great, you know. It could be almost anything, it's meant to be totally dynamic that way. All right, so yeah, basically those are all the advisor changes for 25, 26. We have some more future things to touch on here. The state course code website, Naomi just sent out the bulletin about this yesterday, and that is available now, coursecodes.education.ne.gov. So there are, like every year, there are a lot of changes listed. You go to the top of the screen, there's a link that says change summary. Click that, you're going to want to review all of that. There are a lot of new courses. There's these JAG courses, Cambridge courses, changes to grade levels, changes to possibly some endorsements. That is all going to be mentioned in that change summary there. All right, I want to talk about some of our future projects that we kind of still have on our board. We don't really have specific dates for most of these yet, but these are still the ones that we are also working on alongside everything else going on. NEP and NEP Secure, we are still making updates and additions to that. There may be some additional reports coming. And we have a team working on those right now, actually. So, ongoing transition to the new portal. We've talked about this. More apps getting refreshed. We've got, probably dozens of apps that still need to get refreshed for the new portal. Kind of get their software backbone upgraded so that not only is new software more secure, but then we're able to employ people that know how to work on it. AQuest updates, there may be some of this covered. I know Derek from the AQuest, our head of accountability, is talking about accountability tomorrow in a session. AQuest this fall isn't getting huge updates, but in fall 2026, there are going to be some big updates. He's been meeting with, boards and lots of people as they are planning all these updates to the system. And at the same time, I expect we will have new reports on the NEP Secure to go with that new system. We want to have more explanation for districts about what individual students are counting for what metric, also where exactly all the designation, the TSI, ATSI, CSI stuff, where all that data comes from. So I hope we, at that time, will be able to basically give you everything you could possibly want to know. And you could take all that data and calculate the AQuest bottom to top on your own if you wanted. As I mentioned, we hope to keep doing additional integration with the assessment vendors and advisor. Right now, we're in the middle of a project with ACT to get their assessment results to us directly. I have been in talks with IXL. That's one of the other assessment vendors that I think some districts do use. And they're interested in sending us results directly. It's not just about sending results to us, though. In the future, we may do automatic roster updates. There's a lot of complexities about this, especially with NWEA having their own software for it. So I can't promise exactly what that would look like. My hope is we can get to a place where changes made in your SIS can show up in your roster easily. All right, some other projects. This is one we've done some planning on. Graduation cohort rewrite. A lot of this, and this isn't going to be for next year, but hopefully 26, 27. A lot of this is back-end data calculation stuff. We want to make it more stable, more reliable. Make sure we always have a version of the data set for each year that we can calculate separately. Also, if it doesn't take our database 9 hours to run it every night, that will be good. One thing, and this came up when I was talking about the differences between special ed exits and graduation. We know that as far as graduation rates are concerned, we allow you to count anyone who graduates during the summer before the first day of school as a graduate. Why can't we just build the system so that, like for example, this summer, if you send us a 24-25 record, or if you send us a 25-26 record, we should be able to count either, and we look at the date that they graduated, and we know where it counts. Along with this, we would be redoing the GCAT, the graduation cohort tool reports that are in advisor validation, kind of simplifying them, making them a little clearer. Also, one of the features we want is more warnings about students that haven't been transferred out. Make it even more obvious that you have someone who is still getting counted in your cohort and is probably going to not count as a graduate, and you need to probably transfer them out. We have some data that can tell us that. So, other projects we've been working on, in which we've promised in the past as well. Staff ID integration into Person ID. Person ID was always meant to be one system we could use for staff and students. Mix it all together. It's essentially the same system for both anyways. And technically, you'll just get one number. And if you graduate from high school and then become a teacher, you would still have the same number. Part of why we're doing that is also to retire that NDE Staff ID app. A lot of you maybe don't necessarily use that, as IDs get generated automatically when someone gets their certificate. But that's one of our older apps. We are looking to retire that. Also, finally, NSSRS validation. Probably the last thing that says NSSRS on it in the portal. We will finally be able to shut that down as we move reports and errors to advisor validation. That's not actually related to the person ID change, but it's still something we need to do. Again, cleaning up older apps that we don't want to maintain anymore. Something we've mentioned in the past, I still really hope for it, which just requires work on our side and a lot of organizing. The EdFi Identity API. This is meant as a system like in Advisor so that an SIS can talk to Person ID essentially. So you don't necessarily have to go over to Person ID, upload a file, type in someone's name. In theory, if the SIS supports it, you could just sit in your SIS, type in the names, and it'll go say, all right, we went and picked up a student ID for this kid, or we went and generated a new ID because Person ID didn't have it. So that's definitely on our list, and I hope we support that. One other change we've also mentioned in the past, but this is something that is planned for very far in the future, but it's good to be aware of it. The Office of Management and Budget has put out guidance that says basically all federal entities should be changing to a new race category system. It is something that has happened in the past, and so we are expecting that in the future. It's supposed to happen in 2028, I believe. They have put out a document with specifically what the changes are. I would sum it up as these are the big changes that would affect us. The Hispanic Latino ethnicity is no longer collected as a separate question. It will be one of the categories with the others, where students can select multiple, and those will be one of the options. Also, they recommend adding a Middle Eastern or North African category. They have slight variations of it you could choose from, and that's true of the ones we're using currently as well. But generally, I expect those are going to be the changes we make, and so if the feds are making that change, we probably have to make the change in Advisor and lots of other systems, and what we show on the NEP has to change, and AQuest subgroups, and many, many things change. So that is why we are planning for it so far ahead of time. All right. That is all the news about what new is coming. I wanted to mention some of the sessions that I referenced. Obviously, I want you to check out all the sessions if you can. But if these are going to answer any questions about stuff I mentioned, tomorrow, 8:30, I've got a session where I'm drilling into advisor attendance data and how ADA, ADM, et cetera works. There is a new portal session, I believe is like a repeat of the pre-conference session, but if anyone missed that, I would recommend you check out one of the new portal sessions tomorrow, and I assume those will have time to also make sure, test that you can test logging into the new portal. So there's one at 8:30 tomorrow. 11 o'clock, empowering data stewards, streamlining access to school meals and SEBT benefits. This is the Katie from Nutrition Services that I mentioned, is at 11 tomorrow. As Jill mentioned, this will be our lunchtime session. Is all about LB 296, enhancing education for students under juvenile court supervision. One note, programming note, I believe we have had to cancel this 3 o'clock session tomorrow about statewide assessment, student data. We may see if I could present on it, but that one may just be canceled. We'll see if there's anything that could fill that in, or maybe a repeat of a morning session. And also 3 o'clock, there is a repeat of the new portal session. So hopefully every district here, if you haven't been at the pre-conference, would be able to attend one of those two. There's also some more special sessions coming up. We have at 3:30, each of the attending SIS vendors, we're letting them host their own session. So CIC, EduPoint, ESU3, JMC, Nebraska Power School, each of them have a session. We would definitely recommend you attend if that is who your SIS is. And those are all in the diamond rooms that are in the middle, either on this side or around the registration table to the other side, I think. We also scheduled some time tomorrow after lunch, just as a general networking break session where we encourage everyone to check out the vendor area, the break room, talk to all the vendors at the tables. We also have a raffle sponsored by one of the vendors that is going to take place tomorrow at the end of lunch. So I think that's all the housekeeping notes. We are updating the schedule that is online through Event Combo for if we have to change any of these sessions. So keep an eye out. We'll also try to post notes, or we'll mention during lunch tomorrow any changes we need to mention. All right, that is everything I had. If anyone has any questions, raise your hand, or if you want to send them to me later to answer, you don't want to get up in front of everyone, I understand, but please send them my way. If you have something for later, you can of course send us an email. I'd recommend emailing the service desk, and we'll all talk together and answer those questions. So. All right, I don't see anything. So the SIS vendor sessions are scheduled to begin at 3:30. So we've got a break time and allegedly some snacks back out in the vendor room. Thank you.